Hello and good evening from Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. And this is our Thursday night African conversation about the 2024 presidential election going on in my homeland, the United States of America. And so we've been having some very good discussions, one-on-one, with people from various walks of life, as well as small group discussions um, with the same variation of people and the perspectives and the walks in life. And again, our goal is to have probably about 3 or 4 more conversations, and then we're going to be in the drafting stage, drafting a proactive report on what Africans think for both presidential candidates now in place, the Republican Party, former President Donald Trump, and his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, and on the Democratic side, Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. I forgot to mention the state that J.D. Vance is a senator in, which is Ohio. Both of these vice presidents, so candidates, hail from the Midwest in areas that we call swing states. Okay, states which are going to be the most important in regards to who wins this election. And unlike in other countries, it's not the popular vote that really matters. What really matters is who basically wins the votes of the Electoral College, okay, which is a peculiar American institution that was established by the founding fathers of the country, who were fearful of the masses, and they were fearful. Fearful that the masses would pick somebody who had a lot of popular appeal, or so forth and so on, and not based upon competencies. Well, here we are, my friends, in 2024, and 2016, that is exactly what happened. We had the populist Donald Trump win the Electoral College, and I believe his opponent, Hillary Clinton, actually won the popular vote, or almost. And so the Electoral College is very much of an obsolete institution as the demographics radically change in America from being virtually all white electorate to being an electorate which is no longer all that white. And so, anyways, just like the now rather archaic Supreme Court, 9 members, so forth and so on, and elected by through nomination by the president and through the U.S. Senate. That needs to change too, by virtue of the fact that these justices are no longer all that impartial, and all that began to happen mostly in the year 2000 when the Republican Supreme Court swung the presidential election to George W. Bush. And so ever since that time, which is about 24, 25 years, the Supreme Court has been captured. And it's the same thing that can happen to the Electoral College, being captured and being disrupted, not doing essentially what it should be doing in regards to sort of like being a referee to make sure that the right person gets in office. We continue to, see the presidential race getting kind of boring, actually, to me. I won't say I've stopped reading altogether the media press. I have to do that. That's my job to do that. But it's a struggle increasingly because they're talking about the same old in their own little boxes. Nobody is really being that creative, that bold, that courageous. Trump is doing his thing in regards to um, just spreading out insults to Kamala Harris, not talking about anything about policy at all. And we have Kamala Harris spewing out the usual moderate line um, with a little bit of sugar in regards to basically borrowing a great deal of the script from Bernie Sanders and AOC, and even from Donald Trump. You know, the whole infrastructure idea was it was Trump's idea. Okay, and so now the Democrats have picked it up, have spruced it up, and they're claiming it to be their own. The problem with the boredom that's going on now is that it's going to create a lot of non-voters, especially among young people, especially among non-white people who are just going to sit. And this is something which the Republican Party is banking on because they know that the few people that come out to vote are becoming very apathetic. They're going to have a bigger chance to win. And so it's really very disappointing to me because I was hoping that Kamala Harris would do much better than this. But Kamala Harris is Kamala Harris. She's an opportunist who got where she wants to, and she's going to remain beholden to her handlers. Her handlers are very moderate, conservative Democrats who really are not for poor people, they're for the middle class, and even for the upper class, to tell you the truth. They tend to be warmongers. You know, Democrats have this attitude that they got to outdo Republicans in terms of being warmongers, being hawks. And she is becoming so hawkish, it's not funny. It's beginning to contradict even her rather ambiguous stance about Gaza. That you can't make peace if they want to do things through the military way. And so she's trying to bake a cake and eat it too. And I'm sure it's something that the Republicans have already picked up. But you know, what you see is what you get. You know, the thing about it is that I'm sure that a number of years from now, when archives open somewhere, we're going to discover that the whole Biden Harris situation in 2020 was very much of a setup. You know, it's no accident that Kamala Harris in 2020 dropped out just before the South Carolina primary because they knew that she'd be embarrassed, that she would lose to Joe Biden. She does not really have that much of a constituency outside of California. And in California, the vast majority of the constituency is white Latino. And so getting elected as Attorney General and then getting elected as Senator wasn't really very much of a black thing. There's other kinds of constituencies that she had to play the tune to. And this in a very peculiar way, gets into the whole Trump snide remark about Harris's identity. And it really is, as usual with Donald Trump, barking down the wrong tree. What he should be saying is that it's it's apparent that Harris never had a black constituency. I mean, don't talk about her identity. Talk about what she's been able to pull. Look at these statistics in which she's been able to pull. You notice at the Democratic convention at her speech. Everything about being an AKA woman, everything about um, being a graduate of an HBCU went out the window. And so she's basically committed to Kamala, and what works is fine with her. It works, and so as we move ahead, it's going to be more than apparent that she's weak. She's weak, and my good sisters, um, black sisters backing her up, are going to become mighty disappointed. Mighty disappointed in her because she doesn't have any backbone. That's more than apparent. And if Trump really gets his act together in the first debate and knows how to push her into a corner, you're going to see how weak she really is. And it's not because she's a woman. We need to get out of that sexism. No, I mean, she has no creative ideas. She has no great comeback. In that respect, she's worse than Hillary Clinton. And the ability to foil with Trump. And so I'm sure the Republicans are working overtime to prepare Trump properly for the debates because all he's got to do is tear into her a couple of times, and that's it. The whole facade comes apart, comes tumbling down. One of the greatest tragedies in the first quarter of the 21st century is how much the assimilationist model of blacks making it has become basically redone as identity politics. Identity politics are very dangerous to get into because if you're basically investing in the wrong kind of person who doesn't have any substance, but knows how to wiggle and squirm, up to the top, it's going to be a problem because the person doesn't really have the substantive qualifications. And it's gotten worse in regards to blacks in politics. You saw what happened with Warnock and that crazy election down in Georgia. Okay, the man really has no black base in Atlanta, even though he's a pastor of Ebenezer, which is an elitist middle class church, which sits in the corner of a housing project, and poor people are not even welcomed in on Sunday mornings. He is not. He does not have a great black following in Atlanta. I mean, it was a white population and a Latino population, and probably the Asian population that got him in. So you have that example. You have the example of, let's say, um, somebody like Barack Obama. We saw how Barack Obama behaved in office. He played a game of race in the election campaign. His March 2008 Philadelphia speech on civility, a bunch of rhetoric just to get over. And that is very apparent in his first inauguration speech, where I think he only said civil rights once in passing. The whole issue of civic unity went out the window very quickly. His Attorney General, Eric Holder, though in a clumsy way, attempted in February of Obama's first term to start a national conversation of race and racism. And Obama just shrugged his shoulders saying, "Oh, I don't talk about race all the time." Well, that's very much of a Harvard elitist cop out. But he got what he wanted. He used the race card to get in office. You saw what he did. He did, basically damage control the 8 years that he was in office. His wife is much more solid than he is in a lot of respects. Once she got her act together, um, initially she was talking down to people, talking down to black audiences, and so they had to take her off um, the campaign trail and give her some training. And you saw her speak at the National Democratic Convention, and the media said, "Wow, she's no longer talking about when I go low, we go high." Oh, she had to say that. I mean, because she had said what she said in the Democratic National Convention. She had said that the first time, the second time, they would have roasted him alive. And so they played the game. Now, it was okay, for him to, you know, certainly, stress LGBT rights. Um, God bless my LGBT brothers and sisters. They got all the overdue attention as a population deeply marginalized and ostracized and discriminated against, but also a population, a white population, in this case, that could turn white anytime they wanted. And that was the population that was and still is struggling for LGBT rights. I mean, just about a year or two ago, the most foremost LGBT rights movement hired an African American gay brother. I don't think he lasted for more than a year. He resigned. The protest being how racist they were. And so, anyways, the whole issue regarding LGBT rights began to overflood that about race during the second term of Obama's office. And so, anyways, the thing is that after Obama left the White House, and because of that deal, he got struck with Hillary Clinton to be his heir, ignoring Joe Biden, which created even a deeper schism between the two gentlemen. And just opening the door wider. I mean, already the door in terms of white supremacy, the Republican Party was extremely wide by the time he ended his first term with the Tea Party. Okay. And they opened it wider in the second term. The Republicans going to get their act together with Jeb Bush because Jeb Bush is an extremely boring guy. Frankly, he has the charisma of a wooden table. Excuse me, and he was supposed to be the heir apparent. After his younger brother, it didn't work out. Right. By the way, Condoleezza Rice was supposed to be his VP candidate, more than likely. And so it didn't work out. Meanwhile, you have a Donald Trump who pressed all the right buttons of a highly frustrated white population, especially in the Midwest and in the South. Knew the right things to say. Really was more concerned about his property and making bigger sales but he won. Whoops. He probably cried that night. I know his wife cried that night. What in the world are we going to do now? But anyways, um, political scientists, pollsters, demographers could not make good economic sense out of why Donald Trump won, because it wasn't because of economics, it was because of racism, of the fear of the growing non-white electorate, the growing non-white population in schools, in elite universities, everywhere you turn around. The rise of China as the economic power of the world. So there's no more competition between the United States and China. China is the leading economic power, and if they can just kiss and make up with India, the United States will really be in trouble. Already they're talking about doing away with the U.S. dollar as the global preference currency for trade. That used to be just wishful thinking. Now, not quite. It can happen. There are countries like Russia, Brazil, as well as China, which are beginning to step up to the plate. And South Africa probably is not too far behind them in terms of stressing using local currencies rather than the dollar for trading and banking and investment. And all of this is because of the fact that Obama did not have enough backbone or didn't care to have the backbone to do the right thing in terms of bringing about a more restorative justice oriented country. And a lot of people want it. Even a lot of white people of all statuses are just sick and tired of the racism, not only in terms of attitudes, but also in terms of what does it do to labor markets, what does it do with mobility issues, so forth and so on. And so Obama did a lot of damage that people don't want to talk about. And listen to his speech at the Democratic National Convention. Listen to the whole thing. Don't just pick up the excerpts here and there, the video clips, because the video clips are going to not basically publicize the beginning of his speech when he had the audacity to call Joe Biden his friend. He was no friend of Joe Biden. And the room became just as quiet as a fly walking on cotton. And they know this. They know that Obama played a major role in pushing Joe Biden out. Joe Biden is still hurting behind that, especially since it's a sequel to the fact that Obama did not choose him as his heir apparent. You know, back in 2016, certainly when Joe Biden was much more lucid, he could have played a major role in beating Donald Trump. But instead, you pick Hillary Clinton, and sure, insidious racism. I'm sorry, insidious sexism played a major role in losing. But you know something, folks? My issues having to do with the experiences of oppressed people. We need to talk about women, irrespective of their ethnicity, or you're talking about blacks, Latinos. Let me tell you something. We need to get off this bandwagon of thinking that every time a woman loses, it's because of sexism. Every time if black loses, it's because of racism. We need to get over there and to understand that sometimes women lose or women win because of their personality. The personality can help them or hinder them. Either way, it's exacerbated because it's a biased system. And it's the same thing with blacks, believe it or not. Some blacks, like some whites, are jerks, bad personalities, egotistical, got temper, so forth and so on. And that's why they don't make it. On top of that, if you have a personality that stinks, yeah, sure, it's going to count more against you. But the thing about it is that it's going to count. Now, you could be scratching your head and saying, well, how about Donald Trump? Isn't he an A1 example of a jerk? I mean, this is the guy who's a sexual abuser, a very nasty personality guy, all around. He has no sense of loyalty. When he's finished with you, he just throws you away. But he's a white male. He's an elite white male. Elite white males have had that kind of possible personality and still be successful for generations, for centuries. But even that's beginning to change a bit with the changing demographics because white male privilege is slowly but surely going out the window. And you can't just be a nasty old Joe or a nasty old John or Jim and still expect as a white man to make it. They will cut you out in a wheelbarrow in a minute, depending upon the system, the institution. And so Hillary Clinton was not necessarily the most pleasant person. Arrogant, a snob, didn't want to go out to the Midwest and campaign, unlike what her husband, Bill, of all people, tried to convince her to do. And she virtually or actually cursed Bill out. She said, no, you're old fashioned. I'm going to do it my way, meaning I don't have to go out to the Midwest. Lost. I mean, she didn't even go out to Wisconsin. That the Democrats barely lost. A lot of black folks sat home rather than voting for Hillary Clinton because she didn't have the bazaars. Even a lot of white women, young white women, did not vote for Hillary Clinton. And so, gotta be careful about why we say some people win elections and lose elections. Having to do with the demographic characteristics, because it could just be a matter of their personality. Is the reason why they don't get elected. Now, watch what's going to start coming out about Kamala Harris is all this negativity about her personality and the inability of her to get along with her Senate colleagues and her staff and so forth and so on. It's going to start coming out. This is not a nice person. And again, if you're black, if you're a woman, those kind of negative qualities, because you're part of an oppressed population, is going to factor in much more. than if you are a white male or female. So we have to watch now to see when these personality qualities come out about Kamala Harris. We know of what kind of nasty dude that Donald Trump is and J.D. Vance. But just wait until they start working on Kamala and they start digging up things from her at Howard, um, while she was growing up in California, so forth and so on. You know, the most tragic thing though is again, um, you know, she's not ready. She has really no substance. You know, I think that, you know, by the way, when she got elected, well, even when she was running as Joe Biden's running mate, it's more than apparent that, you know, she wasn't, you know, all that interested. She wasn't all that um, sharp. And I bet you that's the reason why they let her out of a lot of things. It makes such a point that they even say that she goes to certain places, like in the South, when she went to France, and she mocks people. She puts on a different accent. Now, how naive is that? Everybody knows that when she went one point in time to represent the White House to Asia, it was a joke. But it's going to come out even more so if the Republicans are sharp themselves and train Trump in a way to press her on some very important policy issues, and she's going to crack. Now, this gets to another thing about politics, and it speaks of my own bias. You know, I think that if you're not really qualified, if you really don't have any substance, why even bother yourself and waste the time of other people trying to get up there, and you don't really have the capacity to be resilient. Um, so we'll see, because you know you can criticize Trump what you want to, but one thing about Trump is that he has resilience. Okay, he bounces back all the time, whether in his personal life or in his business life, or now in electoral politics. And so I'm saying this as a non-aligned director of ASARPI, as an independent voter, if you must know, as my self-disclosure, um, as a social scientist, looking at all of these trends, which don't make any sense anymore, because the society has changed so much in terms of um, demographics, in terms of growing power of women, and so forth and so on. And so a lot of our indicators are off. A lot of our theoretical perspectives are off because it's a new age we're living in. And so it's nice to be able to sit on the fence and just impartially look at all this stuff going on and raising provocative questions, questions to make people uncomfortable, okay, about you know taking the elephants out of the room and take the elephants for a walk. And so this is Prof. John, Professor John Houston Stanfield II, a director of ASARPI. Thanking you for hanging in there with me on this Thursday conversation in Africa about the 2024 presidential election race in my home country, the United States of America. And thank you very much.